Hi, and welcome to Rick's Room. As you know, this is my Thought Leader Lounge. This is where I invite the people that I know are very smart, very intelligent, great executives, and just try to get them to relax with me and talk a little bit about what they do. It's always a valuable experience. And today, I have someone you probably know. He's been on the show before, Mike Harris. Now, Mike owns Genic. It's a asset management, a business consulting firm, but he's also a managing partner at Blackfin Group. Mike, thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it, Rick. Always a pleasure.
Well, I love having you in the room because we get to talk about important issues of the day and get your spin on them. And when I was a reporter, that always added a lot of value. So I appreciate you giving us some of your time today.
Absolutely no problem. So, Rick, today I think I'm going to do things a little bit different if you don't mind. I'm actually going to turn the tables on you and do a little bit of interview about you and what you do. Does that sound fair?
Well, it sounds boring, but we can try it.
So this kind of generates back to conversations we've had in the past, Rick, where we've talked about business development, the nuances of business development. And as I've always told you, in the times when I was managing companies, either as a COO, CEO, as president, and as I do today, business development obviously is a key component of my job responsibilities, along with client retention. Now, as part of business development, we've always talked about some primary tools, which would be things such as marketing, public relations, sales, et cetera, branding. And I've always wanted to get your take, and we've talked a little bit about it, but I want to get your take a little bit about the nuances between those things, the differentiators, and what work together, and get your thoughts. You're so good at this, and you've been such a good help to me over the years that, again, I thought I'd tackle you a little bit. So does that sound good?
Well, I'm going to have to let you turn the tables on me, Mike, because I get this question a lot from executives. So, and I'm glad to be talking to you about it because you've been CEO, you're a managing partner now, so you know the complexities of business, and you can make sure I'm not off the rails, right? Right. So I'll talk about it a little bit. You interrupt me if you have a question. So,
sounds great.
Yeah. So first of all, I've been doing public relations now for 18 years, helping companies, and one of the questions I get a lot is, "Well, Rick, what are you going to do for me?" And it always kind of depends on what they need. And that's because every business can be managed its own way. The executives in charge in the C-suite, they decide what tasks are going to go to marketing, what are going to sales, what are going to be called biz dev, what's going to be a business development task. They can do it any way they want. And it's a lot more complex today than it was back in the old days where you went to school for public relations and you knew exactly what you were going to be doing. You were a marketing person, you knew exactly what you were going to be doing. Today, all of the lines are blurred and executives can structure their companies any way they want. So when executives come in and say, "Well, Rick, what should you be doing for me or what should my team be doing here or there?" This is where I like to start. Start with a sale. That's the important piece, that last mile when you close the sale, because it doesn't matter how great your website is, how wonderful your LinkedIn newsletter is, or how good any of your outreach is if it's not generating sales. You can talk about it, but you're probably going to end up talking about it in an unemployment line, right? What matters is the sales. And for that, you need dedicated salespeople, people who are leaders who can take a prospect and lead them to the closing table and get it signed. And that's a skill. And those people are highly regarded. They're very valuable. And the best, that's all they do. That's all they do. They take that lead that's already hot and ready, and they want it, and they've expressed the need for it, and they bring them in, they explain it, they get them to sign the contract, and it's done. And then they don't even do anything after that. Often they'll just hand it off to a customer success team. So a lot of times companies will say, "Well, you're going to be my salesperson, but you're going to do your own prospecting. You're going to do all that stuff." And unless you're really lean, unless your organization's very small, that can be a real mistake. And I'll tell you why. Think about it like this. Think about a busy airport. All right. So there's all kinds of planes in the air of every kind going everywhere. And up in the tower, you have these professionals who are air traffic controllers, and they have this radar that goes around, and they have all this information. They're in contact with all the pilots and all these planes. All of these planes are being flown by prospective customers, but they may not be your prospects, and they may not even be long in your airport. They maybe shouldn't even be in the airspace. And the marketing people know this because they track it. They know who those customers are, prospects. They know what they need. They know what they've bought before. They know what information they've downloaded to your website. They know all this stuff, and they can identify the planes that should be landing at your airport and rolling up to your gate. And the gate, of course, is where the transaction is made. Nobody makes a dime until that plane gets to the gate. Air traffic team can get the plane on the tarmac. They can even roll it to the gate, but they can't get it to the gate. I don't know if we've all been in planes. From the cockpit, you can't actually see down on the ground where you're supposed to end up. There are people out there with sticks that light up, and they guide you in, and they tell you exactly which way to go until you land, and they cross the sticks, and then you're there. That's what the professional salesperson does. They have the sticks, and they guide you in and close that sale. But they don't know what planes are in the air. They don't know where to find. That's a whole nother thing. And that's what the people in marketing do. And then my prospects will usually say, but Rick, you're in PR. You're not any part of that. And I said, well, that's true. That's true. What I do is a simple thing. What I do is build trust. If that pilot doesn't trust the tower, they're never going to land. If they don't trust that gate agent, they're never going to roll up to the gate. It's not the gate agent, actually. It's the guy with the stick. So trust is essential. Now, it's not as much on B2C because people will see something and they'll impulse buy it. And if they don't like it, they'll talk about it, but they'll just buy it if they see it. That almost never happens in the B2B world where I spend most of my time. Those purchasing managers have a reputation to maintain. They've got a responsibility for a P&L in their department. They cannot make mistakes. They will not work with you unless they fully vetted you and they trust you. Well, the first step in building that trust is having them understand who you are. Where do you come from? What is your company about? What are your values? Who else have you worked with? Who do you know that I know? All of that is PR. And that's what my team does.
You know, Rick, that's a great analogy you just utilized. I've used other ones in the past, and it's also tremendously insightful. And I'm glad you went down the path of sales because I was fortunate for most of my career to have dedicated salespeople who would do it just as you described, going out and finding prospects and helping close deals. I would run shotgun with my salesperson around the countryside, whether it be in-person visits, conferences, etc., conference calls, you name it. We've been there. But I want to take a step back for a second. You talked about the trust and bringing that together. One of the things that I really enjoyed in working with you is you always were looking to get my idea as a leader of a vision, who I want to be when I grow up, so to speak. And can you talk a little bit about that rapport and that type of dialogue as you go to be able to understand when you're working with a company leader, where they want to go? So I think that helps you define the best tools to utilize. We always looked at it as verticals, that you had sales, you had marketing, you had PR, but can you also talk a little bit how those are intertwined?
Absolutely. And thanks, Mike. So the first question you're talking about is the CEO doing kind of that vision work and that internal trust building, which as a CEO, really important. Your team has to trust that you know where they need to go. And so companies that use PR only for media relations or only for going outside of the company, they're missing a huge opportunity because at least half of what you do should be aimed at internal audiences or partners or even regulated people that don't buy from you, but are essential for that process. So a lot of that work with CEOs involving podcasts or blog posts or LinkedIn is all about establishing themselves as that leader worthy of being followed. Now, your other question was about the silos. And in the old days, it was so much easier. We could put the marketing silo, the sales silo, the PR silo, biz dev and client success and all that stuff and fill them up with the right people and it worked fine. But the lines have been blurring. Content marketing is a perfect example. Is content marketing a PR function or is it a marketing function, or is it a sales function, right? If the salespeople aren't involved, you may be generating content that has no impact on the people that want to buy from you or might buy from you, right? If marketing's involved, it's probably not going to be sent out or distributed to a place where your ideal prospects will find it. And PR basically owns the company's version of truth, the leader's vision. The internal communications team or the external PR team should be the ones that are guarding that valuable key message, that brand promise, that key connection between the company and the people it wants to serve. So where does content marketing fit? It doesn't fit easily into any of those silos, does it? You have to assign it to somebody and build an interdisciplinary team and do it. The way we do it in our shop is we say, give it to PR and give me the contact number for your top salespeople and the people in your marketing department who we're already talking to. And let us find out from those people what's going on, what we need to be talking about, what are the issues that are preventing people from signing and closing that deal. That buyer's journey, which typically lives in the marketing department and can live in the sales department, I think should live in the PR department. Yeah, we're not in charge of the marketing or the sales, but we have to provide content that answers the questions they have at every stage of that buyer's journey. Because if at any point along there they don't get the information they need, they cannot move forward. And if they can't, they'll never get to the closing table. And PR should have all those core messages. They should have all of those answers, which they should be sharing routinely with the media, with their partners, with their consumers online, and everywhere else they can be. So yeah, you can, again, it's up to the CEO how they want to structure their company. They can assign the work wherever it makes sense to them. And often that's going to happen when they hire a great executive and they know their capabilities and they lean into that and they give that responsibility to that executive. And it kind of blurs all those lines for all of the silos. But this is a good thing. Silos are kind of an outdated company structure. We've found for years that they do more harm than good. And so as long as you don't have people that are always telling each other to stay in their lanes, but will actually cooperate for the benefit of the enterprise, you're going to be much better off with the way it is today. A lot of people, I'm going to turn the table here a little bit again, because a lot of the executives that I talked to, so many came to the C-suite through sales. And people in operations, people in product development, the people who were building the things that satisfied customers would always get angry about this. You know, that guy doesn't even know how we build this in here. Why does he get to go to the C-suite? Well, there's a reason for that, because they're the ones responsible for those sales, and that's what keeps the company going. What I've always found interesting about you, Mike, is you have that background, but you also have a lot of operational experience because you work with a Six Sigma, you're doing design thinking, you're doing business consulting, you're actually helping companies on the operational side. So as a CEO that's kind of straddled the fence there, what do you see as the challenges that a lot of companies are facing when they try to structure their biz dev machinery to kind of get to the end zone and get those sales?
Well, Rick, it's kind of threefold. One is in terms of using these different tools in the most effective manner in terms of what you're going to focus on. Are you going to branch out into different areas? Are you going to primarily focus on sales? Are you primarily going to focus on branding and marketing and or PR work? That's difficult in terms of really identifying where you want to lead your company from an outreach and what you want to the industry to see of your company, who you want to be. The other side of it, and as part of that, is very difficult to create differentiators and identify yourself as somebody who's different and being able to separate yourself from your competitors to a particular prospect. What you can do with that, obviously, if you have different types of products and services that are unique, great. but many times you're competing somebody who's doing somewhat of the same thing you are, and you have to find those differentiators that makes you stand out from the competitors. I know that's a cliche, but it's very, very true. And you have to walk in the room every single time with the vision of who you want to be in front of that particular prospect. What do you want to represent? And hopefully you've met with your team, you've met with your company, you guys have, your entire organization has a vision, has a path that you can represent. And therefore it comes off much more sincere.
Mike, I think that's what we need to talk about next time, because I had about 50 questions while you were talking about that. They want to be. One of the things about this show is we try to keep it short because we know every executive is busy. And so we're already past the 15-minute mark. Thank you, Mike, for turning the tables on me today. That was fun.
Thank you. It was great, Rick.
We're not doing that next time, and I want to have you back on the show again.
I don't know. It's an open forum, Rick. I can't guarantee anything,
All right, we'll see. Folks, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Rick's
Thanks
Room.
for having me.